we doing?
Go.
Okay, it was so quiet. I was like, did my computer just die? No one made a noise.
I thought you were talking to chat, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, hello, chat.
Hello.
Chat.
Chat's more important than us.
Hi, chat.
Oh my god. You guys are just...
This is the chaos energy.
It's the chaos energy.
And we're off to the races.
Or at least to see the wizard, apparently. Well, welcome everyone so much. We are so glad that you get to join us for our... Hello everyone! Hi Jessica, hi Swift Fox, hello! So, we're gonna start off with a recap of the episodes that we were unable to air as we were originally doing this as a podcast. So everything was heavily edited and it was getting to be too much for us. And we realized that we work better as a live show anyways, so... We're going to eventually release said episodes that we are recapping, but to kind of catch everyone up for the information that we think might come up or is important for the next few episodes, because we're going to be doing this every Saturday unless noted otherwise, we're going to start that recap. So I'm going to start off with where we left off on episode 10. After returning to the Holy City, and checking in on the recovering Reduvi, the party paused to gather clues on where they could find enough godly energy to reinvigorate Mellifera's holy objects, to finish returning the deity to life. Taking advantage of the break, Petra and Hummel, still in Vera's body, went out on a lovely date, exploring various religion-based bars and restaurants. This eventually led to the two having a romantic evening. Meanwhile, Risen spent time having tea with Corona's Sunflare, while Lovette went back to her grandfather's house and began work on a mechanical replica of Marcus, out of guilt over the child he left behind. The next day, the group reunited, and with the help of a magic mushroom from Corona, Vera was able to switch places with Hummel, returning once more to her body and her aggressive leadership role. Despite her anger at Kurla's earlier behavior, she elected not to kill them, and after some discussion and a well-earned kick to the crotch to Petra from Vera, the party teleported back to Fort Grigoli in the Deadlands to look for more secrets or hints about the next stop. Somewhere else in space and time, Sol found themselves messaged by Lovette's new Marcus, who explained that the gnomish summoner had brought him back and told him he had a son. Marcus desperately requested Sol's aid, but Sol soon discovered they were unable to magically connect with him with their strings. Using a sending spell, they apologized to Marcus for failing him, and requested more explanation on his predicament, without getting much answers.
So, not finding much value at the fort, the party returned to the Holy City, and at Risen's suggestion, left the last remaining godly objects that still held Mellifera's power in them in the safe hands of the guardians of the Temple of Gigarian. Kurla and Risen reconciled, with Kurla finally apologizing for their actions. Congregating in front of the Hive Temple to discuss their next move, the party members were startled by the sudden thunder and lightning appearance of the Dara Hamish spy, Alec, who lost no time in accusing Lovette of some horrible deed which the party was at the time unaware of. Instead of explaining the situation, Lovette reluctantly brought the group to her grandfather's one-time home, where they were shocked to encounter a figure they'd seen die twice, Lovette's childhood love, Moira. The party confronted Lovette about her actions and belatedly learned of the existence not just of the automaton simulacrum of Moira, but of another duplicate, one of their dead comrade Marcus, which the party dubbed Mark II. After learning the full scope of Lovette's activities, and that Mark II had gone in search of Telly Taubert and the child he believed to be his son, Alec left to track down that simulacrum, and to retrieve the fire opal that he'd used to contact Sol, which Sol had gifted to Lovette, which Lovette had then in turn gifted to Mark II.
What a kick in the nuts.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So, once again, returning to the Holy City, the party were unsure how and where to proceed in their quest, Riz, using their divine connections and drawing on all their fate points, requested guidance from the gods and received a vision pointing them toward a distant sand-filled land, deducing that their destination must be in or near the sun-scorched country of Sejun in the southwest reaches of Obador. The party headed to the Druid Circle in the Great Vale, where they teleported to the Lithogate closest to Sejun, located in the neighboring nation of Moscova.
So, in traveling through Moscova, the party eventually arrived at the tiny village of Holbrook, the last Sejun settlement before traversing the Iron Mountains. During their journey, Petra revealed to Vera that he'd taken an oath to Mellifera, finally drinking the Kool-Aid. Readying themselves for the Sandway crossing into Sejun, the party had barely left the village before they were accosted by a crazed old man who threw a box at the party containing a vicious slime. As the slime attacked Petravian, it became increasingly humanoid, with each hit to the point where it looked almost exactly like the Oread. According to the crazed man's ramblings, the entire town had been replaced by these creatures, and so the party reversed course and inspected the village with a new perspective. Eventually, the party investigations led them to a wizard's tower east of the town. Breaking in, the adventurers found journals that revealed the terrible truth. A disease had broken out into the town, killing everyone in it. The party also discovered a peasant trapped in a cage, acting strangely, whom the journal only referred to as the subject. Making their way to the top of the tower, the team confronted the dying wizard, and we basically yelled the old man to death. Before losing his home.
That's one does. That's one does.
They then dragged the subject, still locked in the cage, to the center of town as evidence of the truth, that the wizard, unable to save the townfolk by ordinary means, literally replaced everyone with a slime simulacrum, leaving them all unaware of the true nature. Uncertain of the most moral way to address the situation, the party debated how best to proceed. Risen attempted to ask some gods for their advice, but didn't gain much help. And most strangely, when trying to contact Thess, the goddess of foresight and wisdom, Riz was struck with a terrible feeling and it seemed as though they could not connect to the deity, yet seemingly forgot about it immediately. After much deliberation, the party decided to kill the subject, which the wizard had described as a bad specimen. But they also decided to leave the town in blissful ignorance, while arranging for it to be kept under watch to ensure the humanoid slimes posed no threat to the outside world. Before they departed the village, Petra adopted a small, seemingly harmless slime simulacrum naming the creature Plu for the unique sound that it made.
Plu! Plu! Finally entering Sejun, the adventurers made their way to the first town, Manzana, in search of a particular library that Risen had seen in their vision. Along the way, Lovette and Kurla threw a small birthday celebration for Archie, with gifts that encouraged the automaton's budding artistic abilities. In the town's library, the party were shocked to encounter Detlev, who directed the group to a private library in the town of Hesisi. Once there, they discovered that this library matched the one from Risen's vision, and met the library's owner, an archaeologist, Dr. Aida I keep getting this name wrong again. Ada.
Ada, wait!
Who enlisted them as support muscle for a research expedition to an old temple dedicated to the serpent primal god Set. Narrowly avoiding a blue dragon as they journeyed across the shimmering desert, the party made their way to the larder of Set. Fighting through droves of undead mummified serpentes and a giant zombie snake, the party discovered a large sum of gold deep in the temple. Enough for Risen to give some back to Vera in order to be considered part of the team.
Aww.
Yeah. It's just what I stole.
More crucially, they also discovered the vast reserves of Set's divine energy stored in the larder, and were able to use it to recharge the Maleferan items. Rushing to finally revive Mellifera, the team were confronted by the blue dragon they had thought they'd evaded. Although the party's members were able to bribe the dragon to let them go, they also agreed to never enter the dragon's territory again, which the team interpreted to mean they could never enter the desert. After returning Dr. Sayed's to her home in Hasisi, the party made their way back to the Hive Temple in Vil, where they once again prepared to complete the ceremony to bring Malephera back to life. Before it began, Kurla took Vera aside and surprised the Druid by describing themselves as unfit to protect Reduvi, and by grudgingly wish the Hive well in their second attempt to revive their deity. The ceremony was completed without incident, and Malephera was finally returned to a physical form. In appreciation, she granted Vera the power to switch bodies with Hummel, once a day, by mutual consent. Which, consent, the
It's the
hottest
sexiest
of all
thing.
things.
Absolutely.
I just asked Jackie.
Right?
Wrong show.
It's a good show.
It's a great show.
It's a great show.
Watch Snake Eyes.
As Vera, Petravian, and the rest of the Hive celebrated the return of their beloved god, Lovette went back home to work, leaving Kurla and Riz alone to talk. Kurla, shaken by the ceremony, finally opened up about their past, tearfully explaining the horrific nature of their curse and their rationale in pushing people away. Kurla and Riz bonded over this, with Risen explaining they did not think any less of Kurla, and promising not to reveal Kurla's secret to anyone in the party. The next day, the group teleported back to the southwest of the continent to pick up the Vardo and carriage, only to have Lovette receive a sending spell from Mark II, saying that he had been kidnapped and taken to the underground city known as Dis, the home of the Dark Elves.
Lovette, worried that Mark II might die, pleaded for the group's help to save her creation, and, with varying levels of enthusiasm, they agreed to assist her. Teleporting to Vatra, the party then hazarded the dangerous journey down into the depths of Adrum. After arriving in the city of Mythelion, they attempted to pass themselves off as merchants, but were soon stopped by a priestess of the primal deity That Which Hungers, who claimed to be related to Lovette. The woman, named Sasho, escorted them back to the palatial building, where they met another cousin of Lovette, Merkalumi, and finally found Mark II, who had been tortured and experimented on. Eventually, Lovette met her maternal aunt, Kamenerlon, or Kami, and a powerful and high-ranking member of Dark Elf Society. Over a fancy dinner, Kami explained that Lovette's mother had possessed a dark spirit of divine power from That Which Hungers, a power that she had run away with when she fled Mythelion. In exchange for Lovette embracing her birthright, Kami offered Lovette a deal to become part of the family again, and receive immense power and prestige. The same dinner, Kami also revealed a shocking truth, that Kurla's curse was a randomly bestowed gift from That Which Hungers. This sent the Half-Orc into a rage, eventually leading them to reveal to the party what Riz already knew, that the curse began with a bolt of godly lightning out of the blue, which afflicted them with an irresistible hunger and forced them to kill and partially devour their own sister, leaving them to be ostracized by their community and causing them to flee before they could be executed. They also revealed that their unpleasant demeanor is in large part a deliberate attempt to keep the others at a safe distance from them and their insatiable appetite. In the end, refusing to cooperate with Kami by choosing not to reveal Kurla's secret, Lovette rejected the terms which her now ex-family offered. In retaliation, Kami magically banned the entire party from ever returning to Dis, and removed the Dark Elf heritage and divine spark from Lovette's body, making her into a full gnome.
So, unsure what to do next, and per the request of Lovette, the group returned to Vil to allow Lovette some time to rebuild and fix Mark II, because, torture, before sending him on his way. Lovette also brought Moira along to journey with the group, although it's unknown if this was at Lovette's request or Moira's own desire. Soon after, Vera received a message from Siva asking if Vera was still in the heroing business. The party returned to Hartenshan, only for Siva to tell the party that the Deadlands had been rapidly expanding, and, fearing that this could cause a nationwide panic, Siva asked the group to assist with the defences at Fort Hawk, the village outpost closest to the Deadlands. On the road once more, the party departed to save the people of Vil. We're such fucking heroes. Upon arriving at the fort, the party met with village General Thyner and another group of adventurers who'd also come to Vil's aid. The two teams chose to split defense duties, with the adventurers remaining inside the fort, introducing themselves as the Lightning Blades, and Risen quickly making up a name for the party, dubbing them Fortune's Favor.
Yeah.
We never voted on that, but I like that name.
Look,
Fortune favors the bold.
they
Yeah,
had a
Fortune's
name.
Favor.
We needed a name.
I like it.
Okay,
They didn't.
I dig it. I
did
can
they?
roll
They
with
asked
it.
for a name for our group.
yeah,
You did.
their names as a fifth graders named them, but go ahead.
So, Beardy. I think that's gonna cost you later, Skrewy. Fortune's Favor learned that there was a horde of undead skeletons, the intentionally forgotten 13th Legion of the Protean army, marching towards the fort under the leadership of a spectral entity who bore a battle standard that gave the undead odd abilities and strength. Believing they could use this information to their advantage, the party chose to act on the offensive, leaving the fort to destroy the groups of ghostly legionaries outside its walls. After defeating a number of the legionaries, it soon became clear that the battle outside the fort was a diversion. The party raced back inside and, working together with the Lightning Blades, were eventually able to track down and destroy the Legion's leader. Having recovered the banner and destroyed a number of the ghostly entities, the tendril of the Deadlands dissipated, and its pace of expansion was slowed, keeping it once more temporarily at bay. As Fortune's Favor helped clean up the fort, they decided to stay the night and get to know their new allies.
The next morning, after saying their goodbyes to the Lightning Blades, the group received a commendation letter from General Thyner with instructions to present it to the crown. The team teleported back to Hartenshin, perhaps hoping to suck some money out of Siva as well, but instead waking her up early in the morning and finding out the city had suffered a riot after news finally broke out about the Deadlands.
But
we
money.
missed a riot. That's a shame.
I know, we could have been part of it.
Absolutely.
Looting!
Siva thanked everyone for the help and directed them to the royal palace, but did not budge on paying out the group for their goodwill. At the palace, the team found themselves well rewarded with a large chest containing 100,000 gold pieces, which Petra lost on the ground in no time, spilling it all over the floor while trying to look cool by lifting the chest with one arm.
I succeeded in the roll, just forgot that to lock the lid.
It eventually was all collected back in the chest and eventually split evenly within the party. Lovette then teleported Fortune's Favor to the Great Vale's Druid Circle, which Vera then used to transport the party to Kodre. On arrival, Kurla immediately recognized the area by its distinct smells and insisted that the party leave. But by then, they had been spotted by two people hiding in bushes, watching the group, Half-Orcs who recognized Kurla, and vice versa. Kurla, expected the worst, but the villagers, insisting that they now practiced forgiveness, invited the party to lunch in the nearby village, which was revealed to be Kurla's hometown. Entering the village, Vera immediately recognized a statue that had not been there when Kurla fled many years before. It was of the elder being, Calyptra, the sister of Mellifera. And not like sister like Vera's, but like actual... It's complicated. As Vera inspected it, a man from Vera's past, one whom she thought dead, appeared. A yellow tiefling named Baren. Baren led the group into an eating hall and explained that the past leader of the village, who had ruled by fear and polytheistic religious zealotry, had been killed by none other than Kurla's father, who had finally seen through the leader's lies. Kurla, skittish and uncomfortable, tried to leave, only to run into their mother. Fleeing, they hid in the Vardo, with Risen in tow for comfort. The two talked through Kurla's conflicting feelings on the situation, leading Kurla to finally confront their mother. Their mother tearfully apologized and explained that Kurla's father had left the village to find them. Overcome with emotions, Kurla left the conversation on what could be considered the best possible terms.
I didn't stab anyone.
Yeah, I know, it was
It's true.
great.
I was surprised that there was no stabbing.
I was ready to disintegrate a bitch.
In the meantime, Vera bonded with Barin once more, but things got heated when the attack on the temple came up in conversation, with Barin insinuating that it was not Vera's fault. This led to party members trying to corner Vera about her past, to the point where eventually she too left the hall, only for her to slowly but gently, in her own way, open up to Kurla. Petravian, while Vera was gone, questioned everyone about Vera's past, although Barin would not budge, saying that it was her story to tell, revealed finally that Vera had a strange symbol on her shoulder. Neither Risen nor Lovette could discern its origin, however. So once the group was all together once more, Vera requested that the group stay for a day and help out for one evening, as it would be rude to leave otherwise. So very unique verbiage for Vera in that one. Petra, feeling his faith weighing on him heavily, sat Risen down alone that evening, requesting that they teach him about polytheism, unsure how to progress with worshipping both Eden and Mellifera simultaneously, and feeling as though he had been focusing mostly on Mellifera recently. So Risen calmly explained that practicing is different for each god, and that each communicates differently. Kindly, they guided him with small things that could be considered communication, and ended by explaining that being religious is not an easy thing and takes patience. So once Petravian felt satisfied with that, he then changed gears, asking Riz how to start a religion for Soul. Riz quickly put down the request and recommended Petravian speak with Lovette on the matter, since they had never started a religion before.
It's fucking weird.
And even later in the evening, Vera eventually had a heart-to-heart with Barin, explaining that Mellifera had no power to help him during the attack because of Vera, basically. And hearing this information and mulling it over, Barin offered forgiveness to his old friend and received a hug in kind. In the Vardo, later that evening, again, Lovette privately approached Vera, confiding that she'd been struggling with her sense of identity since her change into a full gnome. Vera encouraged her to be whoever she decides to be, telling her that it shouldn't matter what vessel she takes. Eventually, the party settled down for the evening. Early the following morning, Kurla stirred, telling Risen that they would be out and returning to their family home, where they fell asleep in their childhood bed, clutching their late sister's blanket.
For initiative.